Hey everybody, happy deadline day. It was very, very quiet for the Giants up until the end, the final minutes before the deadline. Hectic final minutes for the Giants front office and Buster Posey as he's watching people try to get paperwork in on time. And right at the end there, Camilo Doval traded to the Yankees, Mike Yastrzemski traded to the Royals. Those two joined Tyler Rogers, who was traded on Wednesday to the New York Mets. So the eighth inning guy headed to New York, the ninth inning guy headed to New York. Mike Yastrzemski headed to the middle of the country. The Royals have liked him for a long time, so not a surprise that they wanted to add him for the final 2 months here. But a big day for the Giants, and really one of the few times in their recent history and recent decades that they've gone into full sell mode. They have generally avoided this, especially at Oracle Park. This is not what they expected to do. They expected to add a starting pitcher at the deadline. They hope to add a second baseman potentially, maybe add to their outfield, make a run here in the second half. But losing six straight put them in sell mode, and it ends up being three players, two of the longest tenured players, three of the longest tenured players really, who got traded. But in Rogers and Yastrzemski, you were talking of two of the three guys who go back to the end of the Bruce Bochy era, and two of the three longest tenured players on this roster, along with Logan Webb, who now is really pretty easily the longest tenured guy. It's him and Wilmer Flores, the only ones left. There were five guys on this roster who had played with Buster Posey in 2021. Three of them got traded in the last 48 hours by Buster Posey. There was a sixth on this roster earlier this year, Lamont Wade Jr. He got DFA'd. So not really a year for looking back. I think they have made some decisions that were tough for Buster. These are people that he is friends with. I think especially Yastrzemski, someone he has been friends with over the years. He said today he knows this is tough on their families, but this is something he felt had to be done. Buster's quote to the media after this, he said, "I think it was watching the way we played over the last month and how poorly we played since the break. We felt like this was the time that we needed to try and get back some players that will help us going forward into the future." Full interview with Buster Posey coming on the final Giants Talk episode this week. So that'll be up Thursday night or Friday, August 1st. About 25 minutes with Buster talking about the deadline. You can probably guess why they dealt, but he breaks down some of his thought process there and when he felt like he had to go into a sale. Talking about Bryce Eldridge, talking about some other young guys that they might see, some organizational approach changes maybe that we have seen. I asked him about the coaching staff, where he stands on those guys, where he stands on the sloppy play that we have seen, and how that can get fixed. And one thing that was asked of him today when he met with reporters after the deadline was when this was asked several times. When did this actually, like, when did the white flag go up? And he said there was no exact moment. There was no moment where he felt like things had to change, or they had to change their approach. It just kind of became clear that they had to do it. And I think, what stands out to me is how many times he mentioned today just playing clean baseball. And he said he met with Bob Melvin after the Pirates series and talked to him about let's just play cleaner baseball the next 2 months. Let's play a little bit harder. Let's prepare a little bit better. Things like that. And just, stop making some of these really, he didn't say this, but I'll say it, these really dumb mistakes that they keep making. I would guess, again, he didn't say this. I would guess the Tuesday night game, just that was the tipping point for him. Just watching the way they played, watching the lack of offense. Um, Elliott, the infield fly thing, the mistake at second base with the grounder to second. I would guess that was a tipping point. And I'll say I heard Wednesday morning all of a sudden started hearing from scouts who were like, "Hey, Rogers is pretty available. Doval is more available than he has been." And those are two of the three guys who get traded. We had a previous video about the Tyler Rogers trade. It is Camilo Doval to the Yankees in exchange for catcher Jesus Rodriguez, righty Tristan Vreeling. We'll figure out exactly how you say Tristan's last name. Sorry, Tristan. Infielder Parks Harbor, and lefty Carlos De La Rosa. Sounds like the Giants were particularly excited about Rodriguez, someone they talked about quite a bit today. But four players they get back. It's not a crazy haul when you look at no top 100 guys here. They got the number 19 and 25 guys. That is the best they did. And then two other guys. Those things are not set in stone, but certainly seems like compared to maybe some of the other relievers, did not get maybe quite as much. I mean, some of those guys have pitched better and more consistently the last couple of years, but certainly I think they probably, I will say I initially heard they were going to kind of guys who are on teams' top 10 lists, teams' top five lists. So I think this ends up being maybe more of bulk, instead of like two guys that you feel are can't miss. But they felt good about the group. We will see over time. You never know with prospects. We'll see what this ends up being. And then the Yastrzemski trade. It's been a long day, long trade deadline. You wake up early on deadline day, so hard to talk late in the day. But Yastrzemski to the Royals for righty Junior Marte. Um, Righty Junior Marte, not that one, not the one that was traded for Eric Miller. Uh, this is the A-ball pitcher for the Royals. So there's two of them. There's two Martes. Uh, and the Giants feel good about that as well. He's had some success this season. Yeah, as I mentioned, no one time where it changed for Buster, but this is a big move for him. These are guys that he is close with. I will say one thing that stood out. They didn't go further. They said they had to be blown away on Robbie Ray. They were not blown away. Buster said he did not talk to Justin Verlander about whether he wanted to, pursue 300 wins elsewhere. That was something that seemed like it maybe could make a little bit of sense if they could find someone who felt good about the way he has pitched the last month. And it's a big contract there. You get out from 4.5, 5 million potentially the rest of the way. But he didn't have that conversation with him. They did not trade anybody else from their bullpen. I know some teams were sniffing around about Lucchesi and some guys, but they ended up keeping a lot of that group intact. But yeah, Yastrzemski obviously, I could do a whole episode, whole video here on each of these guys who got traded. I'll just say briefly on Mike. I mean, 28 years old when he debuts. He's one of Farhan Zaidi's best moves, right near the top. And he ends up playing nearly 800 games for the Giants. He's as good as anyone has ever been defensively in right field here at Oracle Park. You saw that in his last game, going over the wall, making that catch. So pretty impressive what he has done over the years, and I think that's a big reason why they've kept him out there. There are a lot of strikeouts. The average has dipped over times, but the defense in right field, they've always felt like it is harder to play right field here than it is center field, and that has been something that has always kept him in the lineup. And he turned out 2 win seasons. I mean, it's not. He's not. There was one season where he's like ninth in MVP voting. That's not who he is. I mean, he wasn't an all-star, but he was just a solid player, someone who, if you could find a good platoon partner for him, the Slater Yastrzemski thing really worked for a while. And somebody who became a clubhouse leader. He's a free agent at the end of the year, so it made a lot of sense that they would have to ultimately trade him here and find a different home for him. We'll see where he ends up long term. They needed to open that spot up, whether it's Matos, whether it's Gilbert, whether it's Grant McCray, who was, by the way, scratched from the AAA lineup, whether it's Marco Luciano at some point. They need to open some at bats. Gerard Encarnacion can't be on rehab forever. So they needed guys to go out there and get an opportunity to play some right field, play some left field maybe, and that meant trading Yastrzemski. But the other one, Doval, I mean, that is a big move. And the thing about Doval is he's under team control beyond this year. So that is a move from the 2026 team. I think even though I would say people probably would evaluate this and say they maybe did not get enough. I'd guess I haven't read any grades. I haven't read anything. I would guess that'll be in some of these stories afterwards. I also think the Giants probably felt like they were selling a little bit high given what happened last year, given that, in the offseason, there were a lot of trade rumors and they were not getting 4 players back for him in the offseason. So I think there's just always been a little bit of hesitancy with him about some of the things. I mean, the holding runners, some of his defense, the pitch clock stuff. He has cleaned a lot of that up this year, but still, it's been hit and miss with him in recent weeks, and there's been some really rough outings in the last month. And so I just feel like they felt like it was time to move, and it was a good reliever market, and get 4 guys for him and move on. They have Randy Rodriguez, who's ready to be the closer. But yeah, one thing that stood out with that package and just in general, they get a bunch of guys who are close to the big leagues, a bunch of guys in AA, AAA. Some of these guys have been in the big leagues already. So I think we will see Buto this weekend. We'll see some of these other guys later this year, and then a bunch of guys who come into camp next year competing for jobs. And they really did not have there's not a lot in AAA and AA in terms of guys who they think are going to be part of next year's team, or there was not a lot. And I think now they feel pretty good about what they've added. I will come back with another video at some point, hopefully soon. We'll recover from the deadline. I'll come back and kind of break down some of the guys they got and where this is headed with those guys and get some more information on them, talk to some scouts and talk to some Giants people and see what they liked about them. But I do think as far as what's next, I mean, immediately what's next, they go to New York, they go to Pittsburgh, 2 teams that just swept them. Can't get any worse, right? One thing that stood out to me today is I'm kind of looking at the second half schedule and thinking about what's next and what's down the stretch. This was really kicked off by Merrill Kelly being traded and me realizing, oh, the guy who's been impossible on the Giants, to the point that Gabe Kapler, of all people, joked about like might have to just pick names out of a hat to try to find a way to win against Merrill Kelly. He gets traded out of the division, and so they don't have to face him. So I look at the schedule to see when they're going to see Arizona again, and They see him twice in September. You look at the August schedule, it's a little soft. You look at the September schedule, there's a lot of Rockies, a lot of Cardinals, a lot of Diamondbacks who have sold. So, in theory, a chance to finish strong here, and in theory, a chance to maybe turn this record around. There are two caveats to that. One, they just got swept by the Pirates, which led to the sale. So, yeah, you're just gonna have to play better. And that was one of Buster's things today. Like, just play better baseball. The other thing, I think the important thing here is they traded their closer. They traded as reliable an eighth inning guy as you're gonna find. And Randy Rodriguez is maybe an upgrade in the ninth inning when he can pitch. He went back to back over the weekend, and then he was out the entire Pirates series. And even as the bullpen, they're trading Rogers. They couldn't use Randy on Wednesday or didn't want to use Randy on Wednesday against the Pirates. So you all of a sudden have this group, this bullpen that was the best in baseball for a while and keeping this team afloat. And they have lost their reliable setup man. They have lost Camilo Doval, who again had some wobbles in the ninth, but generally had a good first half and had a really dominant stretch early in the year that got him back in the ninth. And Rodriguez, you cannot use every day. You can't use every save opportunity. So they're gonna have to figure out the eighth. They're gonna have to figure out the seventh. They're gonna have to figure out the sixth. You got a hint of that on Wednesday. There's some Tristan Beck. There's some Spencer Bivens. There are some guys who will be in the mix. Ryan Walker, Buto will be in the mix. He'll be active this weekend against his former team. But that to me is one of the concerns here. Just even if the lineup picks it up, even if these guys figure it out, start playing better baseball, a lot of those close games that they were winning early in the year, they now don't have those guys who are getting them through the late innings. And then a final concern, the San Diego Padres and AJ Preller went absolutely nuts. And that is the team the Giants are 6 games behind. That is the team they're trying to run down. And they did more than anybody. And they got much, much better. So I think there's a world where the Giants are better over the next 2 months than they. It can't get any worse than it's been the last month. But where this does turn around to an extent, there is some pressure off now that the deadline's over, and um, some of these guys just have to be better. Just logically, you look at the back of their baseball cards, they have to be better. I think there's a world where that happens. I also, they're also 6 games behind a team that just got much better and is going to try to run down the Dodgers. And yeah, and in these close games, it's going to be tough. So tough day for the Giants, but Buster felt like this was what had to be done. Really, you go back 4 years, a lot has changed for the organization. And now it's Logan Webb and Wilmer Flores left from the last playoff team here at Oracle Park. They hope to be there here in 2025. They have fallen into hard times, and that is what you've seen the last couple of days with some pretty notable names being moved out.